1 week after Russian President Vladimir Putin wrote an op-ed in the New York Times urging the United States not to pursue military action in Syria without UN backing and slamming the notion of American exceptionalism, Arizona Senator John McCain fired back on Wednesday with his own piece in Russia's Pravda on Russia's Pravda.ru news website. And McCain slammed Putin for what he considered the Russian president's disregard for the plight of the Syrian people, as well as civil rights abuses in his own country. In fact, the majority of the piece focused on domestic Russian politics and how much Senator McCain really cares about Russians. He wrote, "How has he strengthened Russia's international stature? By allying Russia with some of the world's most offensive and threatening tyrannies, by supporting a Syrian regime that is murdering tens of thousands of its own people to remain in power, and by blocking the United Nations from even condemning its atrocities." And it goes on, "When I criticize your government, it is not because I am anti-Russian. It is because I believe you deserve a government that believes in you and answers to you. And I long for the day when you have it."
I think they're hilarious, and it serves Putin right for his obnoxious op-ed, in which he says America is not exceptional, and like John McCain points out, you couldn't even criticize him the way John McCain did if you were a Russian citizen. Completely great point and completely true. There is something exceptional about guaranteeing free speech in a constitution.
But at this point, I mean, is either one of them really doing anything except for just kind of trying to poke each other and point fingers? It seems a little absurd to me. I mean, believe me, Vladimir Putin's op-ed I definitely thought was pretty rich when he gets into the "we're all created equal" and American exceptionalism thing. But he at least had some points on international law and upholding the UN if the United States is to take action in Syria. Here, John McCain kind of just glazed over the Syria thing and entirely focused on domestic Russian politics and is telling Russians how to run their country.
Well, he also pointed out that Russia is propping up Syria in certain ways. But you are right. He has mostly gone around it and is thumbing his nose at Vladimir Putin for human rights abuses and things of that nature in Russia. He even points out in this op-ed, "You put a punk rock band in jail," which is a great point, referring to the members of Pussy Riot who were incarcerated for playing punk rock music in a church. So sure, they're poking each other in the eye on one level, but on the other, this is how propaganda works. This is how you plant ideas in the heads of people all around the world. And I don't think it's something that is completely futile or ineffective in the long term, even though it's fair to say it does seem petty in a certain way from where we're sitting.
Yeah, well, I haven't been able to check in with those that I know in Russia yet, but I have a feeling that the way that Americans don't like to be told that exceptionalism is not something that applies to the country, something that they should say that America is to others. I have a feeling a lot of Russians won't like John McCain telling them what should be happening in their country too. But definitely an interesting war of words here between the two leaders. And you're right, that's how propaganda works.
Let's call it a healthy international debate.